The night I discovered my husband's secret affair with my best friend, I didn't scream or cry. Instead, I smiled and pretended everything was perfect because revenge, when served cold and calculated, tastes so much sweeter. My name is Maya Richardson, and this is the story of how I turned betrayal into the greatest comeback of my life. It was supposed to be the happiest week of my life. My tech startup had just secured $1 million investment. My husband, Marcus, was up for a major promotion at his law firm. And my best friend since college, Serena, had just moved back to town after 5 years abroad. The three of us were inseparable. Marcus and I had been married for 7 years, and Serena was like the sister I never had. That Friday evening, I decided to surprise them both. I'd booked a private room at the most exclusive restaurant in the city to celebrate our combined successes. I left work early, picked up expensive champagne, and drove to Marcus's office to pick him up. His secretary, Janet, looked nervous when she saw me. "Mrs. Richardson, Marcus said he'd be working late tonight. Maybe you should call first." But I just laughed and waved her off. I want to surprise him. I took the elevator to the top floor where the senior partner's offices were located. The hallway was empty and quiet. As I approached Marcus's corner office, I heard voices. Laughter. A woman's giggle that I recognized instantly. My hand froze on the door handle. Through the frosted glass, I could see two silhouettes very close together. My heart pounded as I slowly, silently turned the handle. What I saw made time stop. Marcus, my devoted husband, had Serena, my best friend, pressed against his desk. Her arms were wrapped around his neck, his hands on her waist, and they were kissing with a passion I hadn't seen from him in years. Papers were scattered on the floor around them, and Serena's laughter filled the room as Marcus whispered something in his ear. I should have burst in. I should have screamed. But something stopped me. Instead, I carefully, quietly closed the door and stepped back. My mind was racing, but a strange calmness washed over me. I pulled out my phone and, with shaking hands, took several photos through the frosted glass. The silhouettes were clear enough to be unmistakable. Then I heard their conversation as I pressed my ear to the door. "When are you going to tell her?" Serena's voice was breathy and excited. "Soon, baby. Once I make partner next month, we'll have enough money set aside. Maya's company is about to go public. With the divorce settlement, we'll be set for life." Marcus's voice made my blood run cold. "You're sure she has no idea?" Serena asked. "She's clueless," Marcus laughed. "She trusts us completely. That's what makes this so easy. She's so busy with her little company, she doesn't even notice when I'm gone for hours." "And the prenup," Serena pressed. "Useless," Marcus said confidently. "I've been documenting every dollar she's invested from our joint accounts. My lawyer says I can claim half of everything she's built. The timing's perfect. Once the company goes public, we strike." I'd heard enough. I walked back to the elevator, my legs moving on autopilot. In the parking garage, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at nothing. Then something inside me shifted. The shock transformed into ice-cold clarity. They wanted to destroy me. They wanted to take everything I'd worked for. Fine. Let them think they were winning. But I would be 10 steps ahead. I drove home, carefully composing myself. I touched up my makeup, practiced my smile in the rearview mirror, and walked into our penthouse apartment like nothing had happened. An hour later, Marcus came home whistling cheerfully. "Hey, babe, how was your day?" He kissed my cheek like he always did. "Amazing," I said, smiling warmly. "The investors are so excited about the Q4 projections. How about you? Ready for the partner decision next month?" "Fingers crossed," he said, loosening his tie. "I'm feeling good about it." That night, I lay beside him in bed, watching him sleep peacefully. The man I'd loved for 10 years, who'd promised to build a life with me, was planning to rob me blind with my best friend. But he had no idea that Maya Richardson didn't get to where she was by being naive. I'd built a tech company from nothing in one of the most competitive industries in the world. I knew how to strategize, how to plan, and most importantly, how to win. The next morning, I started my counterattack. First, I called my lawyer, David Chen, someone Marcus had never met because he handled only my business affairs. David, I need you to do something for me, and it needs to be completely confidential. I explained everything, showed him the photos, and played the recording I'd made on my phone. His face grew serious. Maya, I'm so sorry, but you've come to the right person. Here's what we're going to do. Over the next 3 weeks, I became an actress worthy of an Oscar. Every morning, I kissed Marcus goodbye with a loving smile. Every evening, I had dinner with Serena, listening to her talk about her new life in the city, all while she was secretly destroying mine. But behind the scenes, I was building a fortress. David worked quickly and quietly. First, we restructured my company's ownership. We created a complex trust that protected my shares and made them untouchable in a divorce. We backdated everything legally to before my marriage, using legitimate legal structures I'd simply never activated. Marcus's claim that he'd funded my company with joint money? David found every receipt, every bank statement proving I'd have built my business with my own savings, student loans, and initial angel investors who had nothing to do with Marcus. But I didn't stop there. I hired a private investigator, a former FBI agent named Catherine Torres. I need to know everything, I told her. How long this has been going on, where they meet, what they're planning, everything. Catherine was worth every penny. Within a week, she handed me a thick folder. "You're going to want to sit down for this," she said grimly. The affair had started 6 months ago when Serena came back for a visit. They'd been meeting twice a week at a boutique hotel downtown, always paying in cash. But here's what made my blood boil. Serena wasn't just back in town by coincidence. She'd been fired from her job in London for embezzling company funds. She was broke, desperate, and when she reached out to me, I'd welcomed her with open arms, even lending her money to get settled. That loan, it turned out, had gone straight into a joint account she'd opened with Marcus. They were stockpiling money, preparing for their new life together. The file included dozens of text messages Catherine had recovered. Messages where they mocked me, called me boring and obsessed with work, laughed about how easy I was to fool. One message from Marcus to Serena made me see red. Just a few more weeks of pretending to care about her stupid app ideas and her boring dinner conversations. Then we're free, baby. Cabo was waiting for us. My stupid app ideas had made millions. My boring dinner conversations were about changing the tech industry. And Cabo? That was where Marcus and I were supposed to renew our vows next month for our anniversary. I took a deep breath and kept reading. There was more. Marcus had been sabotaging me at work, too. He'd been feeding confidential information about my company to a competitor, hoping to tank our valuation before the divorce. The competitor's lawyer? A friend of Marcus's from law school. They had a deal. Crash my company, split the profits from shorting our stock. Now I understood why our latest product launch had been leaked to the press before we were ready, why our competitor had somehow launched a similar feature just days before us. It wasn't corporate espionage from a rival company. It was my own husband destroying what I built from inside my own home. Catherine looked at me with sympathy. I've seen a lot of cases, Maya, but this level of betrayal is exceptional. What do you want to do? I closed the folder and met her eyes with steel in my voice. I want to destroy them, completely, legally, and I want them to never see it coming. The plan was elaborate. Marcus's partner decision was in 2 weeks. My company's public offering was scheduled for 1 month after that. The timing was perfect. I would let them think they were winning right up until the moment I pulled the rug out from under them. First, I played the role of loving, trusting wife even better. I started leaving my laptop open with fake financial documents showing inflated company valuations. I had fake calls with my lawyer, which I made sure Marcus could overhear, discussing how I wanted to keep everything joint in our marriage because I loved him so much. I even suggested to Serena that she should date Marcus's colleague, setting up a double date. Watching them squirm trying to avoid that was almost entertaining. Meanwhile,
David was building an airtight case. Every text message, every hotel receipt, every secret meeting was documented. We had proof of the corporate sabotage, with digital fingerprints showing Marcus had accessed my laptop and forwarded confidential files. We had evidence of Serena's embezzlement from her London job, which she'd never disclosed. Most importantly, we had their own words, their own plan to defraud me, recorded and documented. But I needed one more thing. I needed them to make a big mistake, that would expose them when they least expected it.
The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Marcus's law firm was hosting their annual gala, the event where they announced new partners. It was the social event of the season, with hundreds of attorneys, judges, and business leaders attending. Marcus had been preening for weeks, certain his name would be called. I suggested to Marcus that we should host a small after-party at our penthouse for his celebration. Invite whoever you want, honey, I said sweetly. This is your night. Of course, I knew exactly who he'd invite. Serena. The three of us together, celebrating his success while they secretly celebrated their upcoming betrayal of me. What Marcus didn't know was that I'd already spoken to the senior partners at his firm, not about the affair, but about the corporate espionage. I'd provided them with evidence that Marcus had been leaking confidential client information to competitors. Not just mine, but the firm's clients too. Catherine had uncovered that Marcus's sabotage of my company was just one scheme in a larger pattern of corruption. The partners were furious, but I asked them for a favor. Let him think he's getting the promotion. Announce his name at the gala. Let him have his moment of glory. Then, the next morning, hit him with the consequences. They were more than happy to oblige. They wanted to make an example of him. The night of the gala arrived. I wore a stunning red dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Marcus looked at me with surprise. Wow, Maya, you look incredible. It's your special night, I said, squeezing his hand. I want everyone to see what a power couple we are. If only he knew the irony of those words. At the gala, I played my part perfectly. I smiled, I networked, I congratulated other lawyers. Serena arrived late, wearing a dress I'd helped her pick out last week. She hugged me warmly. You look amazing, Maya. I'm so excited for Marcus. Me too, I said, returning her hug. I'm so glad you're here to celebrate with us. The announcement came during dinner. The managing partners stood at the podium, champagne glass raised. It is my great pleasure to announce our newest senior partner, Marcus Richardson. The room erupted in applause. Marcus stood, his face glowing with pride and triumph. He kissed me, then gave a short speech about dedication, hard work, and loyalty to the firm. Every word was drenched in irony. At our penthouse after-party, Marcus was riding high. About 20 people had come back with us, including several partners from his firm, and, of course, Serena. I watched as Marcus and Serena exchanged secret glances across the room. At one point, I saw him slip away to the balcony, and moments later, Serena followed. I waited exactly 2 minutes, then I made my move. Excuse me, everyone, I said, raising my voice slightly. I have a special surprise for Marcus to commemorate this incredible achievement. I pulled out a remote control and activated the large screen TV in our living room. I've put together a little video montage of our greatest moments together. Marcus came back inside from the balcony, Serena trailing behind him, both looking slightly flustered. Maya, that's so sweet, but you didn't have to, Marcus began. Oh, but I wanted to, I said with a brilliant smile. Everyone should see what an amazing journey we've been on. I pressed play. But instead of a romantic montage, the screen filled with security footage from the boutique hotel. There, in crystal clear video, were Marcus and Serena checking in together, kissing in the elevator, entering a room. The timestamp showed that it was from 3 days ago when Marcus told me he was working late on a big case. The room went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Marcus's face drained of all color. Serena looked like she might faint. Wait, Marcus stammered, that's not... Oh, there's more, I said calmly, clicking to the next video. Now the screen showed text messages between them, their conversations planning my destruction, Marcus's deals to sabotage my company, Serena's embezzlement charges from London that she'd fled from. What is this? One of the senior partners demanded, stepping forward. "This is the truth about your new senior partner," I said, my voice steady and cold. "For the past 6 months, Marcus has been having an affair with my best friend. He's been planning to divorce me and steal half my company. But worse, he's been engaged in corporate espionage, leaking confidential information, not just from my company, but from yours too." I turned to face Marcus directly. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Did you think I was so stupid, so blind, that I just let you destroy everything I'd built?" Marcus tried to speak, but no words came out. Serena was crying, mascara running down her face. The partners were looking at Marcus with disgust and fury. "I have copies of everything. Every text message, every bank transaction, every confidential file you leaked. It's all documented, all legal, and all admissible in court." I turned to the senior partners. "Gentlemen, I believe you'll want to reconsider that partnership, and you might want to contact your malpractice insurance carrier." One of the partners stepped forward, his face red with anger. "Marcus, you're fired, effective immediately, and we'll be filing a formal complaint with the Bar Association." Marcus finally found his voice. "Maya, please, we can talk about this." "No, we can't. Our marriage is over. My lawyers will be in touch, and Serena," I turned to my former best friend, "I've already contacted authorities in London. They're very interested in your whereabouts." The guests filed out quickly after that, leaving whispers and shocked glances in their wake. Marcus stood frozen in the middle of our living room, surrounded by the ruins of his career and his lies. Serena had fled in tears, but I knew she wouldn't get far. The authorities were already waiting for her. "How long have you known?" Marcus finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Long enough," I replied coolly. "Long enough to protect everything I've built. Long enough to make sure you get exactly what you deserve, which is nothing." "Maya, I can explain," he started, but I held up my hand. "Save it for your lawyer. You'll need a good one, and you can't afford one anymore. The prenup you thought was useless, it's ironclad now. The joint accounts you've been stealing from, frozen. The company's secrets you sold, that's corporate espionage, Marcus. You're looking at serious legal consequences." I walked to the door and held it open. "Get out of my home. Your belongings will be sent to wherever you decide to land. You have 24 hours to find somewhere else to live." Marcus looked at me with something between desperation and hatred. "You'll regret this, Maya. I'll fight you on everything." "Go ahead and try," I said calmly. "I have an army of lawyers and unlimited resources. You have nothing but debts and disgrace. Now get out before I call security." He left, and I closed the door behind him with a sense of finality I'd never felt before. Then, alone in my penthouse, I finally allowed myself to feel. Not sadness for Marcus, but grief for the years I'd wasted, for the friend I'd thought I had, for the life I'd believed was real. But I didn't cry for long. I had work to do. The next morning, I held an emergency board meeting for my company. I explained everything: how Marcus had been leaking our secrets, how I'd discovered and stopped him. The board was shocked, but impressed by how I handled it. "The competitor who's been copying our features?" I explained I fed them false information through Marcus. "They've spent millions developing products based on fake specs. When we launch a real product next month, they'll be caught completely off guard with useless inventory." My CFO actually laughed. "Maya, you're brilliant. You turned your husband's betrayal into a competitive advantage." "I turned it into a weapon. And now we're going to dominate the market." The company's IPO went forward as planned, but with even better numbers than expected. Without Marcus's sabotage, we exceeded every projection. On the day we went public, our stock price soared. I became one of the youngest female tech CEOs to take a company public, and my personal net worth hit 9 figures. The media loved the story. "Woman CEO outsmarts cheating husband and destroys his career" became headline news. I gave exactly one interview to a major business magazine where I talked about resilience, fighting back against betrayal, and never letting anyone dim your light. Marcus, meanwhile, faced the full consequences of his actions. His law license was suspended pending a formal investigation. The Bar Association found him guilty of multiple ethical violations. He couldn't find work at any reputable firm. The corporate espionage charges resulted in hefty fines he couldn't pay. He had to declare bankruptcy. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he was living in a small apartment, working as a paralegal for a fraction of his former salary. His parents, who'd always looked down on me for not coming from old money, stopped speaking to him in shame. Serena's fate was even worse. She was extradited to London to face embezzlement charges. She pled guilty and received a 2-year sentence. After serving her time, she was deported back to the U.S. with a criminal record that made finding any decent job nearly impossible. Did I feel guilty about destroying their lives? Not for a second. They'd tried to destroy mine first. I'd simply been smarter, faster, and more strategic. This is what happens when you underestimate someone. 6 months after the gala, I was in my corner office, overlooking the city skyline. My assistant buzzed in. "Miss Richardson, there's someone here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's important." "Who is it?" I asked. "He says his name is James Peterson. He's a venture capitalist." I didn't recognize the name, but something told me to take the meeting. "Send him in." The man who entered was in his early 40s, tall, with kind eyes and an easy smile. "Miss Richardson, thank you for seeing me without an appointment. I've been following your story. Not just the headlines about your ex-husband, but your actual work. What you've built is remarkable. I particularly admire how you turned a crisis into an opportunity." "Thank you," I said, intrigued despite myself. "But I assume you didn't come here just to offer compliments." "No," he admitted. "I came to offer a partnership. I run a venture capital firm that invests in female-led tech companies. We provide not just funding, but mentorship, connections, and protection from exactly the kind of corporate sabotage you experienced." He slid a folder across my desk. "This is a proposal for how we could work together to help you expand globally. No strings, no games, just business." I looked through the proposal. It was solid, impressive even. "Why me?" I asked directly. "Because you're a fighter," he said simply. "You just didn't survive betrayal. You weaponized it. That's the kind of leader I want to back." Over the next few months, James and I worked closely together. His firm's investment allowed us to expand into 3 new markets. But more than that, I found in him something I hadn't expected: a genuine friend. Someone who understood the business world's cutthroat nature, but operated with integrity. We'd have working dinners that would stretch into long conversations about everything from technology trends to philosophy. He'd been through his own betrayal years ago. His business partner had tried to force him out of his own company. He understood the pain of misplaced trust. "The difference between you and me," he said one evening over coffee, "is that you saw it coming and planned your counterattack. I was blindsided and had to fight my way back. Your way was much smarter." I had 3 weeks to plan, I admitted. 3 weeks of pretending everything was fine while I built my case. It was the hardest acting I've ever done. "But it worked," he pointed out. "You didn't just protect yourself. You came out stronger." 1 year after the gala incident, my company had tripled in size. We'd acquired 2 competitors, including the one Marcus had been feeding information to. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. I was now their boss, and the first thing I did was clean house of anyone involved in corporate espionage. I also started a foundation for women going through divorce, especially those facing financial manipulation by their spouses. I provided legal resources, financial planning, and emotional support. Every woman deserved the chance to fight back that I had. At the foundation's launch event, a young woman approached me with tears in her eyes. "Miss Richardson, you saved my life. My husband was doing exactly what yours did, but because of your story, I knew what to look for. I caught him before he could destroy me." Those words meant more to me than any business achievement ever could. Then one evening, as James and I were reviewing expansion plans in my office, he looked at me seriously. "Maya, I need to tell you something, and it might make things awkward between us." My heart skipped a beat.
"What is it?" "I've developed feelings for you," he said quietly. "Real feelings, not professional admiration, not friendship, but something more. And I know the timing might be terrible. You've been through so much, but I couldn't keep pretending I don't feel this way." I was silent for a moment, processing. The truth was, I'd felt it too. That pull toward him, that comfort in his presence, the way my day felt brighter when I knew I'd see him. But I'd been so focused on rebuilding my life, so determined never to be vulnerable again. "James," I said carefully, "I'm terrified. The last time I trusted someone with my heart, they tried to destroy my entire life." "I know," he said, taking my hand gently, "and I'm not asking you to trust me completely right now. I'm just asking for a chance. Let's take it slow. Let's build something real with honesty from the start. No games, no hidden agendas, just two people seeing if they can make each other happy." I looked into his eyes and saw something I'd never seen in Marcus's: genuine sincerity. No calculation, no hidden motives, just honest emotion. "Okay," I said, surprised by my own answer. "Let's try. But slowly. As slow as you need," he promised. Our relationship did develop slowly, carefully. Every step was built on communication and transparency. He never pushed, never demanded. He let me set the pace. And gradually, my walls came down. 2 years after my divorce was finalized, James proposed, not with a grand gesture or public display, but during a quiet evening at home with just the two of us and our dogs. "I love you, Maya Richardson. You're the strongest, smartest, most remarkable woman I've ever known. Will you marry me?" This time, when I said yes, it was with complete certainty. No doubts, no fears, just joy. We married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Nothing like the elaborate wedding I had had with Marcus. This was intimate, genuine, real. Standing at the altar, looking at James, I thought about how far I'd come. From that night when I discovered the betrayal, through the careful planning, the public revelation, the rebuilding of my life, I'd lost a husband and a best friend, but I'd gained something far more valuable: myself. I'd learned that I was strong enough to stand alone, smart enough to outmaneuver my enemies, and brave enough to love again. The betrayal that was meant to destroy me had instead forged me into someone unbreakable. 5 years after the gala, I sat in my office, now leading one of the top tech companies in the world. James worked in the building next door, and we'd have lunch together every day. My foundation had helped thousands of women escape financial abuse. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was from Marcus. "Maya, I know I have no right to contact you, but I wanted you to know I'm sorry. Truly sorry. You deserved better. I hope you're happy." I stared at the message for a long moment, then I deleted it without responding. He didn't deserve my forgiveness or my acknowledgement. Some bridges, once burned, should stay as ashes. That evening, James and I walked through the park near our home. "You're quiet tonight," he observed. "Just thinking about how strange life is," I said. "How the worst thing that ever happened to me led to the best thing." "Betrayal or meeting me?" he teased. "Both," I laughed. "If Marcus hadn't betrayed me, I never would have become who I am now. I never would have met you. In a twisted way, his betrayal was the best gift he could have given me." "Do you ever regret how you handled it? Exposing him so publicly?" I thought about it, honestly. No, he tried to destroy me in secret. I destroyed him in public. That's called justice, not revenge. He made his choices and I made mine. I chose to fight back, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. "That's my girl," James said, kissing my forehead. As we walked home hand in hand, I reflected on my journey. Betrayal had taught me that trust is earned, not given freely. That love without respect is worthless. That I was capable of so much more than I'd ever imagined. And most importantly, it taught me that when someone tries to knock you down, the best revenge isn't just getting back up,
It's rising so high, they can never reach you again. My name is Maya Richardson. I'm a CEO, a philanthropist, a wife, and a survivor. And this is how I turned the worst betrayal of my life into my greatest triumph. Did you enjoy this story? If you listened till the end, drop a 1 in the comments. Like and subscribe for more incredible stories of triumph and justice. Remember, never let anyone dim your light. Rise above, fight back, and create the life you deserve.